The Kingdom Hearts series has been progressing a single, continuous storyline for over 22 years now. In that time, the series has built up quite a cast of interesting characters. I've realized that a number of these characters have certain similarities or connections to each other, but we haven't seen them interact much, or in some cases at all. Here's 10 character interactions that I think it would be neat to see in the future. I'm cheating a bit with this one, but I'm going to say the foretellers and our current day characters. When the foretellers were first revealed, many people pointed out their similarities to the characters that we've already known and loved from the series, such as similarities between Aced and Terra, and Envy and Aqua, and Gula and Roxas. And I just think it would be interesting to see the characters from now interact with the foretellers that are most similar to them, because I feel like there are going to be some stark differences, and I think it would be interesting to see how they bounce off of each other. During the boss fight in Remind that was between the Guardians of the Light against all of the replica Xehanorts, we did have quite some interesting dialogue between Axel and Aqua, which is a character combination you wouldn't really be looking too into going into the game, I wouldn't think. But I do think that they would have a pretty interesting dynamic, because Aqua did not seem like she was ready to put up with anything Axel was doing. And I feel like Sassy Aqua would be pretty funny, because you don't really actually get to see that too often. She's normally pretty prim and proper, and I think it would just be funny. I think Axel would bring out a different side of Aqua that we don't really see that often, and just any excuse to have Axel around is good, so this would be pretty neat. The Remind DLC did gift us a couple of lines of dialogue between Roxas and Ventus, so this is one that we have seen before, but I think that given the fact that they look almost exactly like each other, and the fact that Axel Lee knows both of them, I think that it would be interesting to see more of them just hanging out with each other and confusing people on which one's which, because they just, they look identical. And we actually did get a little bit of that in the Destiny Island scene in the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, because Roxas was hanging out with Aqua and Terra. So I'm pretty sure that was intentional, but that was a fun little nod, and I just think it would be cool to see them get to know each other better. Now, this next entry is something that is pretty much impossible given the current timeline, but still something that I think it not should have happened, but would have been interesting to see happen regardless, and that's Xemnas meeting the Birth by Sleep trio, which you do have allusions to it with the scenes with Xemnas and Aqua's armor, and then all the references to Ventus whenever Xemnas is around Roxas. But having Xemnas meet the actual characters would be interesting, just because of his, looking like Terra, but older. And I think that would have been pretty interesting to see happen. Which, ironically enough, we did have the scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 with Aqua meeting Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, but not Xemnas. They were, of course, in the same area in the Keyblade Graveyard at the end, but didn't really interact. So I just think that would have been interesting to see. And, of course, there's so many characters, it's hard to squeeze all the interactions in that you would think of. But I think that one would have been pretty entertaining to see. And it's a shame it didn't happen, but of course there's always, time constraints. But now this one may sneak by people that are not caught up with Union Cross, but Ventus and Marluxia, I do feel like would have an interesting dynamic, especially if they both wind up getting their memories back, which it does seem like Marluxia does at the end of KH3. But I think that their past is something that would actually really benefit the story if it were to be brought up current day by these characters, because there's a lot there, and the people that did not get into the mobile game, they got to have some kind of recap for the things that went on there. And I do think that having a recounting of details between these two would be one way to do that, because they were pretty good friends in Union Cross. They didn't know each other very long, but the time they did, they were pretty tight knit. So I think that this would be really cool, and definitely there also might be some friction there if maybe if there's some gaps in Marluxia's memories and he doesn't remember the whole story, he might get mad again. But just these two need to catch back up, and that's it. This next entry might catch people off guard, and it doesn't really have a lot of thematic relevance to it. But I just think that it would be really cool for Shion to meet Chirithy, because in the Days manga, Shion is such a big animal lover. She adopts Pluto temporarily, and she's just overjoyed with that. And I do think that Chirithy is supposed to be one of the more cute mascots for the series, at the same time actually being a character, because the Dream Eaters, don't really talk, and of course Chirithy is also a Dream Eater, but just the normal Dream Eaters. And the Heartless, some people have like plushies of the Shadow Heartless and think they're cute. I do think Chirithy is supposed to do that, though. Chirithy is supposed to be the cute mascot, and I just think that Shion would freak out if she met Chirithy. She'd probably think Chirithy is adorable, and I just want to see that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for it to happen, but I just kind of wish for it. It's a real shame we didn't get to see Riku and Vanitas interacting. They have the same fighting stance and similar abilities, with both of them using the darkness, as well as having the same darkness suit. And I think it would be really interesting to see Riku react to someone that looks like Sora acting very un-Sora-like. And that would have been something to see. I think it would be really interesting, and I kind of wish it would have happened. This next one really surprised me when I realized that Vexen and Shion don't really interact at all. Shion doesn't get much of a role early on in Days due to not even speaking and having much of a personality early on, and Vexen gets sent off to Castle Oblivion pretty early on, so they don't really have much time to interact. And unfortunately, due to the size of the cast in KH3, wasn't really viable there, or got forgotten or something. But I think it would be cool to see these two interact, considering that Vexen is the one who created Shion. And it seems like he's really proud of that. And now that he's Evan, and hopefully continues to be a redeemed character, I think it would be wholesome to see them interact more and see if Vexen can actually, Evan can be a decent person. And I don't know, I feel like it would be pretty wholesome and special, and we don't see family type dynamics explored in the series that often. And of course, Shion's not Vexen's actual daughter, but I do think that it would be interesting to see them interact in that way, and it's just weird that it hadn't happened. Vanitas and Kairi. This is one that I've thought of a lot before Kingdom Hearts 3's release, and I actually realized the reason that it couldn't happen would probably be because it would be a similar situation with Ventus and Vanitas, where it would probably form an incomplete version of the Keyblade. But I had thought it would be interesting if Vanitas and Kairi had fought in KH3 in the Keyblade Graveyard. But Vanitas and Kairi would be kind of crazy, because Kairi is going to see Vanitas, and obviously she's going to be thinking about Sora, and they're just so different, and it would kind of be really weird, like in a good way. But I had initially thought about, what if they have Kairi fight Vanitas in the Keyblade War? This is way back before KH3 even released, and I had all these fight scenes in my head. I'm like, oh, what if this person fought that person, and these people met, and I was thinking all kinds of things before the game came out. And this was definitely one that I thought of a lot, because I just thought this would be really interesting and really different. I just wonder how these two characters would interact. And I think this is also something that the fan base has thought about a lot too, because I've seen some comics and other people have brought this up. But I do think this one would be crazy, and I'm really curious how it would go were it to actually happen. Naminé and Terra are two characters that have communicated quite a few times, but has never been shown on screen. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been at least 3 separate occasions where we've been notified off camera that they have communicated, be that as far back as 0.2, when Aqua is in the Realm of Darkness. It was actually in one of the orchestra concerts. It was revealed because they had the voice actors for the characters actually come up and like recite dialogue as if the characters were actually talking. Fortunately, I don't think that ever made it into any of the games. And then also in Kingdom Hearts 3, of course, Naminé is the one who brings the Lingering Will to the fight the second time. So I do think it's interesting that these two characters have just communicated off screen. I don't know why it's always lined up like that, but I think that would be interesting to see them meet for real in the future and see what kind of dynamic that they would have. I think that it's a pretty unlikely combination, and everything's in place for them to actually meet, and it would be interesting to see how that goes. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video, and thanks for hanging out with me. This was definitely just something that I have been thinking about, and some of these probably won't make sense to your average Joe, but it's just, some of them just are common sense, that it feels like it kind of should have happened if they would have had time to do so, and then others I just think would be pretty cool. Also, definitely don't turn this into a drinking game, because if you took a drink every time that I said interesting or cool in this video, you might black out. But sometimes making these, I don't really have the most extensive vocabulary. But I promise you, I do know words. I know quite a few words. It's just sometimes I can't find them in these videos. But once again, thanks for sticking out to the end. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I promise that's not just a tactic to get more comments on the video. I am actually curious what people would think about it. And till next time, I'll see you guys then.